All right, welcome to another Lightning Strikes Twice. We have one topic apiece, 5 minutes to discuss each one. So that's about 10 minutes. And I counted that without banging my head on the screen. So why don't you start it off today?
All right. I don't know if I would classify what to classify mine as. I guess I'm figuring it's philosophy, I suppose. Maybe like some kind of science related thing. Um, okay. IoT everywhere, like the Internet of Things, right? What do you feel about that? Like more and more smart homes, smart cars, smart
Okay.
everything's fucking smart.
Uh, hmm, like if you're into that, I'm not gonna I don't know, poo-poo it, but I feel like that's just moving more and more toward this like dependency on the technology that isn't totally necessary.
Hmm.
Like I can see it for certain applications, like if you're not home often, the ability to like turn lights on and off without, having patterns to it might be nice. But
Yeah, yeah. But it's
apart from that, I feel like a lot of it's just being lazy though.
it's a lot of marketing gimmicks in a lot of cases too. Like the lights make sense, yeah, and maybe heaters, a smart thermostat, something that
Right, yeah. Yeah.
totally makes sense. A lot of the things actually on their own kind of make sense, but it's like you got like smart fridges, and actually, our one of our friends has a smart smoker. It's a smoker, and you can't operate it without using a phone. Like there's a whole app for that to like do all this stuff, and it is cool,
Is
but
that
it's like
really smart though?
no, it's
That's just a remote control, like
it is,
using your
yeah.
phone as a remote control.
It's a
Like the smart fridges I've heard of though, they can actually like analyze what's in your fridge and give you a recipe for something.
yeah.
That's smart.
That actually is, but that's what my point is. Like it does make sense. However,
Mhm.
it's a form of planned obsolescence because they're all dependent. They're not. It isn't like they're dependent on the company still existing and servers that these devices connect to being still operational. And at some point, as we all know, it becomes like, oh, we can't even update your old thing to the new software, so you have to buy a new thing,
Mhm.
and it happens all the time, and like that's frustrating because me, I'm like a fix it kind of person, like keep things going as long as possible. That's part of the recycling and environmentalist sort of mentality, is like don't throw things away if you don't have to. And these things end up having to be thrown away for literally no reason other than that the company decides that they don't want to support it anymore, and that's bogus. um I think that's where it's like I agree with some of the little things. Well, even cars. I was watching Jay Leno's Garage the other day or yesterday, and he has all these old cars that he's restored. I'm sure everybody's seen his stuff. It's awesome, but it got me thinking, like, what about the cars of today? How are they going to restore, say, like a 2025? I don't know, whatever, any model of car, because it has the all this electronics and stuff that's dependent on software updates. Like, like how's that going to work? It basically, it's like because a lot of the things, the smart things, are not so, like, they're not really smart because they can't
Right.
operate without these smart features. It's like there's a smart toaster, like you have to have an app connected to use it. Like, okay, well, what happens when the company goes tits up and now you have this
Howdy
toaster?
doodly do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now I'd prefer a toaster like that.
Right.
But it kind of concerns me, is that more and more everything is sort of like an IoT device that really doesn't have to be. Where it's the integration that bothers me, where it's like it will not operate as its fundamental function without a connection to the internet and without
Yeah.
connection to the server and the company and updates and stuff.
As
That's
long as there's still an option to not use those, I guess that's fine. But yeah, like if like what you're saying is definitely a huge concern if that becomes the standard,
yeah.
and then the next thing you know is, oh, you gotta buy a new one all the time, like
Yeah,
just like everything else in this corporate driven fucking world.
yeah,
uh,
exactly. Well, and yeah, it comes down to society, I think. Like we need to change our ways, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's just, well, and some people, depending if it's something really cool like the Pebble watch, right, which actually there's a new one coming out, by the way. People will build their own infrastructure, like a completely independent one that you can connect to and stuff like that. But it has to be something popular. And so, like, not everything, some cheap Chinese whatever, is not necessarily going to get that kind of treatment.
yeah.
So it's just a sad state. Like, I don't know. I like it and I don't like it. Oh shit. Well, that's time.
All right. Well, turn my phone back on. I lost my list. There it is. Uh, okay. Um, this is a philosophy category, I would say, pretty firmly.
Mhm.
Um, do you believe that minimizing problems is helpful or harmful?
Well, in what context? Like, because I mean, yeah, I could. It depends. What, like, an example maybe, or something.
Um, you know, like with politics, like anytime the red team or the blue team does something, you always hear somebody being like, "Yeah, but the other team did that too," and so if you didn't care then, like, what do you care now? Like, it's basically, I mean, there's a host of logical fallacies attached to that, but it's what it's basically doing is saying, like, just because it's happened before, like, we might as well just throw our hands in the air and not
Oh,
consider it a problem, like
like
minimizing the problem.
so like, for instance, you could say, well, that wasn't that atrocious of an event, because it's like, well, you had the Holocaust, right? It's not
Right.
quite as bad as the Holocaust, so
Yeah.
therefore,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just one of the steps leading up to the Holocaust. It's not
And
that bad.
well, yeah, and well, I think yeah, it's kind of like comparing, diminishing something by way of
Mhm.
comparison or something. Uh,
Yeah.
like, oh, this person does something bad, and then somebody's like, well, yeah, but that person did something even worse. Like, well, it doesn't
Right.
matter. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It doesn't.
yeah. So that person shot and killed one person, and they'd be like, well, it wasn't, but that person over there killed three people. Like,
Yeah.
it's still killing. It's bad either
Right.
way. It doesn't matter.
Well, I was talking to one guy that Randy used to get in arguments with
Uh-huh.
uh, over and over again, and I ended up having to block him because he's just like way too irritating and
You just picked up
illogical.
the torch.
Yeah, yeah. Like, Randy had a lot more patience than I do, but
Yeah.
you know, uh, it was regarding the whole deporting, when it's really more like disappearing people without due process and all this stuff to El Salvadorian prisons, not even in our jurisdiction.
Well, that
And
was one case, but
he was like, well, Hunter, no, it was way more than one case. But anyway, he was like, not Hunter, but, he was like, Biden deported a bunch of people. And it's like, but yeah, he wasn't like taking citizens or non criminals and throwing them in a freaking foreign
well,
prison, like
as far as
it's
I
totally minimizing
know,
things.
there were no actual U.S. citizens that have been deported. Maybe a couple of detainments, but
None
nobody
of them have
actually.
been deported because that requires due process.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's literally just removing people from the country and throwing them
Well,
in
yeah, yeah.
area.
Well, but then, people, I've heard it bandied about. Like, people will say, like, well, yeah, but Obama deported like 3 million people or something like that, which is true. Like, quite a lot of people. But
Yeah, and
it's like,
that's a
well,
stupid comparison because those were actual deportations, like
yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
if
I
if
think
if you go into court and it's shown that you did actually do something wrong and you shouldn't be in the country, yeah, you get deported.
well, I
But
mean,
if
you
you
can
just
be,
have brown skin and you get
well, no,
thrown
you could be
into an
deported.
unmarked car,
you
and
could
you're
be
never
deported.
seen.
You could be deported simply because you're not a U.S. citizen and you're not here with authorization.
Yeah,
That's
but they're not checking the authorization.
well,
They have actually put people in there who like are totally fine. Like you don't have to be a citizen to be here legally.
oh no, no,
I'm
I
not a
know, I
citizen
know.
of Germany, but I'm here legally. I'm
Yeah, yo,
a
for sure,
resident,
sure, yeah. Well,
You know, same thing
the
happens
issue
in the US.
the issue I see with what you're talking about is it kind of dismisses the conversation where it's like, okay, well, these are things that are worthy of conversation and analysis. And to say, well, it's just it's not that big of a deal because the
Yeah,
other guy, the last guy,
right.
did that thing. And that's kind of I think what you're getting at is like, yeah,
Yeah,
um, because even back then it's like yeah it was certainly a concerning thing or a thing to be paying attention to when Obama or Biden was doing the same kind of stuff like yeah it's kind of I honestly I think no matter what it's kind of handled wrong, although I
yeah.
will say the US does is much nicer than many other countries would be. um so there's that, but then again that's a kind of a comparison thing. It's like, well, we could still improve the process significantly, and that's really ultimately what ought to happen.
Well, I
uh,
mean, what's happening here is we're just getting a peek behind the curtain. Like the US makes it look like we're nicer, but then, when we push these people behind the curtain, they're just going into the same fucking gulag that,
well, and
everyone
that's
else.
been this is not new, by the way. This has been going on for a long time. And it is kind of stupid. There's probably
Mm.
better ways to do it. um but like ugh,
And
still,
that's the thing though. Yeah, okay, it's been going on a long time. Is that any reason to be like,
of
like
course
that's
not.
all
No,
the
no,
more
and
reason to be more pissed off, I think,
that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was gonna get at. It's like, yeah, we probably should be really seriously considering this thing and have conversations about it. Like, let's
Yeah.
figure this out because, like,
Well,
yeah, the system it shouldn't work this way, and it's by design that it does. That's the oh,
yeah.
well, that was a mic drop
Well,
moment if there ever was
yeah.
one.
Well, there's an important point to be made here, and that is that like when you find out about how long something has been happening or who else has done it before, that doesn't matter. Like once you know, now you know, like why should that mean that, oh, because you were ignorant of something and you didn't know everything and you aren't omniscient, why should you care now? That just doesn't make any logical
Well,
sense whatsoever.
and also on the flip side, there are people who have known about a lot of these things for a long time and have been discussing them and been concerned about them like decades. Like myself and people in my circle,
Hmm.
and have been talking about it and been like, swept under the rug, like, oh, you're a bunch of conspiracy theorists and blah blah blah. It's like, but then those people now, when they're joined by new people who are concerned about things because it's just come to light in their world, they dismiss those people like, oh geez, you're just a noob, you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, man. Like,
Yeah.
well, okay, welcome aboard, right? Like, I don't care. Like, there's a lot of problems, and it doesn't matter to me that maybe you have different political or philosophical reasons for being concerned, but like, well, it takes a village, honestly, to like solve problems. And yes, there's a lot of things and it isn't like one individual and people will pick out a president or whatever, a certain administration or something. It's like, no, 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 no. It's not those. They're basically utilizing the structures that are already in place. Like, the problem is not the people. The problem is the structures. The fact that they even exist, that this tool is available for anybody to use, that's the
Hmm.
problem. And that is what we need to be fixing. I mean, for me as an anarchist, it's pretty bleeding obvious what you do. But still, oh man, that we could probably go on and on about a lot of that. Both of these actually. But we will save that for another time, as
Uh,
always.
all
So
right.
we do this every week. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this little short episode, mini episode, or I guess episodes, because there's two in one. Um, so stick around next time and check out our other videos. We got lots of them. You'll enjoy it. There's something for everybody. So
Yeah, only several hundred.